What is up, everybody? Welcome to the thedruzhinacast. Hey, it's me, Tom, your bud. Look, Mike and Josh are unable to join us today due to work, but hey, it's all right. We anticipated this could happen, and the show must go on. So, as advertised, I'm joined by two special guests. Please welcome to the show Joel Hardcastle and Beol Miller. What is up, my dudes?
What's up?
How's it going? Welcome to the show.
I like how we both do like peace signs, like it's 2003.
Yeah, I don't know why that was my go-to.
2003.
I was really just hoping my hand would disappear.
Your cell phone does, but that's cool enough on its own.
So, welcome to the show. I kind of want to start out letting people know who you guys are. If they don't already know, I mean, I assume a lot of people that are here probably already know who you are. But let's just get some basic info, like who you are, what you like, what you do, what you've done. No, that's okay. Let's start with Joel. Why don't you go ahead and just talk about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Joel Hardcastle. I started off at, I believe I was like 13, playing a game called Dagger here. Which I feel like you guys are pretty familiar with, considering that's where I met Tom, and actually I introduced Beol to that game as well, which I'm sure he'll tell you about. Yeah, I'm still involved, just not to the degree that I would like to be, considering everything that I do, because it's all I have been doing for the last entirety of 2020 is just working on different projects and shit. Yeah, that's about it for me. I don't know. I do LARP stuff.
Sweet.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about like some of the masks you make, or like your interest in any certain? That is an awesome little cup.
I need a little cup now.
I saw it. And I was
feel
like,
completely outplayed
bastard.
here. What is going on?
Yeah, like if you want to like plug, like, I mean, I don't know. It's up to you, but
Yeah, I can. I've got, well, my green screen's on. Hold on. Can I just disable this gracefully?
I mean, you
like
can get up and go grab whatever you got to get. You don't have to.
I'm grabbing more French fries.
I just don't think it's not going to show up. It's just going to.
Oh, it's going to. Okay. It's going to be like a tavern shape.
I feel like because I've got this. Oh, no. Video settings. Maybe I can just do that. We'll just get rid of that stupid picture. Sorry, I'm doing this right.
Oh, no, you're fine. We got time.
None. There we go. Okay. All right. How's that? Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Okay. Yeah. So like I've got my guy behind me here. He's wearing my mask right now. But they're all made of leather, foam clay, and a lot of acrylic paint. But I needed a way in DAG to make masks that weren't going to get destroyed in a full contact game. So outside of wearing a steel helmet over a mask, I started making these.
Nice.
And they actually, technically, I think they count as armor in Dagger here. So at the time that was great. But as I've progressed kind of out of wanting to do just combat, I'm looking for more immersive games. I've sort of started to make my transition into doing silicone masks. So
Sweet.
I have monster clay and a head cast of myself. And once I work through my commission list here in the next couple weeks, I'll be hopefully getting into that. And then I can start doing just something new. I've been doing the leather masks for like 5 years or something like that. So I've got like 100 of them running around various fields. And I'm international. I have one in Australia.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
super
crazy.
excited.
That's Swordcraft?
Cool.
I don't even know which game she's part of. Her name's Dura. She's, well, the goblin that she got, the goblin's name is what is it? It's like Shank or something like that. Like, but
Cool.
yeah, it's my friend Dura. She leads the Iron Claw tribe in Australia. So
Cool.
Sweet.
that's the one that's over there. Yeah, but honestly, like I'm just a little bit burnt out on doing the leather masks, so I'm looking to do something a little bit different with with the silicone. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
Sweet. Do you think that's like a quicker process, just doing straight up silicone versus all the involvement with the leather and the
Yeah, I don't know
potentially
if it'll be. Sorry, go ahead.
potentially like as you get more comfortable with it and everything?
Probably. I think once I get familiar with like the casting process and all that, I just think it'll be a lot more efficient. Because right now, all my leather masks, like I have the basic patterns for like the structure and everything. But then once I start doing all the like little intricate things that everybody wants, because they're all custom, it's just going to be a lot more efficient just to be able to have like a like straight up mold of a mask and just be like, okay, well, I want to do a new one of these, so like I'll just pour some silicone into this.
You could do like more mass production instead of like hand touched artisan like every time. Yeah.
I don't know
sweet.
if I don't know if I actually want to get away from the like the customization part of it. Like I like doing custom masks and stuff, but it'll be nice to be able to like have that option if I decided to ever do like one mask where I'm just making like 30 of them or something. I can just like knock out all of it without having to resculpt it, redo all that, because right now that's all I'm doing. So
Sweet. We want to move over to Beol. Beol, do you want to talk about yourself? Who you are, where you are, what you like, if you like anything anymore after being so involved with this after all these years, and then just what you do and what you're involved with.
Yeah, so I'm Beol, and I'm the visual director at Live Adventure Burgschneider Skald, which is a German company. So I'm located in Germany, and started LARPing in, Joel, what year was it? I think
2006.
No, it was before that. 2004, 2005. We were like, I was like 14. So it had to be 2004.
No, I started when I was 13, 14, and I met you. Wasn't that our junior year?
Yeah, it was the beginning of junior year.
Yeah, so it would have been 2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
Wasn't? Yeah, craziness. But yeah.
I don't even know.
So yeah, I don't know. Math class and whatever year that was. So yeah, that's where I started, and started in Dagger here as well, and then I kind of expanded out into working on other LARP like styles, playing other LARP styles, and then I eventually made the transition into working full-time in the LARP industry in 2014. Yeah, 2014, and then I full-time in the LARP industry, and now work on cool LARP projects each day, which is fun.
Sweet. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background there? Your like where you physically are, like the studio and the
yeah.
I mean, that's pretty elaborate stuff. If you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is our studio. We Live Adventures is the largest LARP organization in the world, I think, at this point.
Nice.
With 3 of the largest events. So our biggest one is Conquest of Mythodia, which is the largest event in the world. It's a little over 12,000 players for our main event. And and this is the set that we use for filming stuff in between events, Live Adventure, like news updates. We also use it for Skald, which is our like Twitch platform stuff that we do. So yeah, it's kind of it's a set.
Yeah.
I wish I could switch to my other camera. I have another camera that just shows like it's actually just like this fake, like complete bullshit. But it looks kind of cool when in this situation. But like 2 light switches difference, and you're like, wow, that looks terrible. So it's like it's all about how you light it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it for me. I do this. I live in Germany. I'm here in Frankfurt. And I've lived in Germany for the last 2.5 years.
Sweet. And if there's anything post-production that you guys want to share as far as links to your personal, like Joel, if you have like a storefront, or even Beol, if you want to plug like SkaldTV or Burgschneider or anything like that, we can put that in the description and send people to your direction.
My Instagram name is actually below my name. I'm pointing like you guys can. Yeah,
it's down
there. But yeah, that's my Instagram name. If anybody wants to follow me there, that's where everything that I do goes. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah. That thing. Yeah, I don't really post anything on my Instagram anymore. It's like I go on a hike and I take a photo or something. But my Instagram is like the most useless thing you're gonna find from me. So
but yeah, we'll all that stuff will be in the description. For the Twitch people, you're gonna have to head over to our YouTube or our Facebook and get it there, because I am practically a boomer and I don't really know how to do that. So no offense against boomers.
All
okay.
right, boomer.
So okay, so if we already did the basic intros, I'm gonna go back to you, Joel. Do you want to talk about your origins in LARP? Why you gave a crap about LARP? Why? Just take us through it. Let us know what the young Joel was thinking.
Oh man. Let's see. So 13-year-old me, I was like just over 5 feet tall. I weighed like 185 pounds. I had shoulder length hair.
I so wish I had a photo of this.
Dude, seriously, it's another life. I don't even know who that person is. But yeah, so I'm wandering around this fall festival that my village that I grew up in hosts every year, and I see these dudes just beating the shit out of each other, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like I'm into like, you know, all fantasy shit, like let's do it, let's get after it. So I go over, I talk to these dudes, fought with them a little bit, it was cool. Fast forward like a year, my mom gets remarried and we moved to the city that they're based in. So I started going to practices over there, and it was a unit of orcs called the Red Skull Militia. I actually still have a Red Skull Militia banner here behind me.
Nice.
That's from the division that I used to lead there before I left the game and the unit. Yeah, I mean, fast forward like a decade from then, I just kind of kept going. I started out wearing like ripped up t-shirts and painting my skin green with food coloring. I think it was probably 2014 where I had been having these discussions with a good friend of mine. I hesitate to say second in command because I feel like it was like I was technically in command of the division, and then I just had like 8 other dudes that were also like my second in command. So, but I was talking to my buddy Wad, who I believe you both know.
What's up, Wad?
What's up,
Yeah,
man?
I'm not sure if he's in here or not.
I just calling it out.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever like talked to Wad, but I know who Wad is. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the one that was doing a lot of like the armor and stuff at the time. I hadn't really like worked into that yet. So came up with the design of doing like a 6-panel leather hat and then building a face onto it, and then you know, like painting it to look like an orc mask. So there are actually pictures of me at the first rag that I had one at, and I believe it was 2015, and it's just me wearing that helmet with like, you know, like a sleeveless tunic on, whatever, like still painted green, like hugging a spear or whatever. Fast forward a couple more years, I had sort of like built up this reputation as like having like the best insight into, maybe not the best, that seemed like, I feel like I'm tooting my own horn a little bit here.
Just toot away, bud.
I mean, I will say it, like from my perspective at least, it became pretty clear that if someone wanted to know something about mask, specifically leather, and there was a lot of people who had problems with latex or silicone, and they were looking for an alternative. It's like everyone in the community knew at that point.
Yeah,
like,
to reinforce.
You hit up Drew, you hit up Joel.
Yeah,
I think it's still that way.
I wasn't even
100% for sure.
I wasn't even in close proximity to you, but I knew through photos and community. So yeah, I mean, I could tell you took it seriously. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So basically at that point, I just decided like it was a conversation. It was like a joint effort between a couple of us. I can't take full credit for everything that we did, but it was a couple of my guys like Wad, Flacco, like any of my dudes that were local. Yeah, like we just decided that I mean, we were seeing these European orcs that like looked real good. Granted, the combat might be a little bit different, whereas we're, you know, like our stuff is a little bit more in your face, I think. but like they looked real good. And like the one thing that was super obvious and like pretty consistent between all the groups is that they weren't showing any skin, so they didn't have to paint any of it, which is like genius, honestly. So it was sort of, it's actually funny because Wad and I were the ones that were like texting back and forth a lot about this kind of thing. And it would always be like, I would text Wad and he'd be like, no shit, dude. Like I was just thinking about that yesterday. And then like it would happen in reverse too. Like he would text me something. I'd be like, holy shit, dude, I'm literally making that right now. Like it was like, we were so in tune for a couple of years. It was fucking crazy.
That's sweet.
So he kind of went off a different direction. He started working on other pieces of armor, and he did a couple other like animal masks or like more animal themed masks. Like he did like a couple of gnolls and other things like that. And he made a couple orc masks too. But I just fucking ran with it. I was like, hell yeah, like this is what we're doing. I got a lot of pushback from the unit at the start when I was like, okay, like I'm technically in charge of this group of 35 people. Like I'm just going to start holding them to a higher standard than the rest of the unit. And the rest of the unit can either, you know, like catch up or get fucked. So yeah, like I have messages to this day. Like if I search my Facebook messages, I would have them where it was like, yeah, you know, like garb isn't really something we care about. We're just there to like fight really hard. And I was like, yeah okay, well we can do both.
Yeah, that culture.
So we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a couple years, but yeah, I started just making things for people. I would just be like, hey, look, I made you this long sleeve tunic. And they're like, for free? And I'm like, you're goddamn right. So like, like, hey, look at that. Like you're doing what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, I mean, everybody, like, it was weird. It was like 1 second they were like, oh, well, we don't really want to do that. And then the next, it was like everybody had like the kit that I had been pushing for. Mm-hmm. Super fucking cool. Like there are so many talented people in that unit. And it was awesome. So that, that obviously progressed until I left and started to do other LARP shit. I started to make my own steel armor. With the help of Daneth and Tarbers, kind of taught me how to do like some basic stuff. And Daneth and I still work on stuff constantly. He only lives like 40 minutes from me. So like pre-COVID times, I was over there like multiple times a week. Just working on whatever. And it's still kind of the same thing now. I don't really do so much like LARPing itself as I do like just constantly working on stuff. Like if I look around my apartment, like I can see 5 or 6 active projects that I have where I'm just like, fuck, I should probably get back to that. Yeah. But, you know, someday.
Sweet. Yeah. Just a little. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I remember even in high school, it was like you go into Joel's room and it'd be like project.
Like, what's that?
And they're all like in different states of completion. And then randomly he would get like, I think you just get like a bug in your ass where you'd be like, I'm doing all of these. And then we wouldn't hear from you for like 3 days and then all of them would be done.
Yeah, man. I had so many weapons and shit to start with. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. I really enjoyed watching those years of like, just like out of nowhere. Just like, yep, done with a new hood, done with new war skirt.
Somehow
just,
I had time
smashing through.
Somehow I had time to do all that, go to school and like play Warhammer successfully and like game. I don't know, like where the hell did all this time go? I don't know how I was doing that.
It's like you get older and you're like, oh, how did I do this? I think the answer is you didn't sleep.
Like, I guess, yeah.
And I remember that being very true for you. Is like sleep wasn't a thing that you did a lot of.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Would you say like for you like the main driving force? Because and I'm trying to like find some kinship with like creativity, but like for me it would be like, because I sew and I that's my side, is I do a lot of like the garb and stuff. And after I learned how to kind of make a few, for me, and this might say something about me, but for me it was like I would put it on. I'm like, man, I feel really cool. Like I'm proud of what I did, and like I'm getting compliments, and like it wasn't the attention from people. It was just the like. Maybe it was that. It was a mixture of that, but I would get in modes where I wouldn't really have anything to do, so I was just like, I'm just gonna make a bunch of stuff, like keeping in mind of how I would feel when it was finished, type of thing. I don't know if it's the same for you, but that for me, I was like, oh man, like I want to have all the stuff. I want to like have stuff for nighttime. I want to have stuff for fighting. I want to have stuff for like stuff I don't even need. Like there's still even like overflow where I'm like, I don't even need this. I should probably sell this to somebody or like give it to somebody. But it's just a creative like addiction, I guess. I don't know, just from
that's absolutely how it is. It's like you finish one thing and then you're like, well, I could do this. It's like, do I need that? No, but like, all right.
Yeah, as long as I'm happy. I mean, I'm here on Earth. I might as well do something.
Yeah, I like some of my best memories are just me by myself, like finishing something or like doing something that I didn't think I'd be able to pull off, and then just like smiling to myself or like laughing because I'm just like amazed at how good it looks. I'm like, holy shit, I did that. Like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
The first masks you did, that was definitely the feeling I had, was like, you'd be like, wait, you did this? Yeah, I did this. And you're almost saying it with a certain sense of like also reminding yourself that you did it. Because it's like, yeah, I did that. I did that. And it was like, it was awesome to watch that because you were so pumped about it.
They're 24s.
Nice.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Jump over to Beol. Do you have anything else to add to your story? I don't want to.
No, I was just going to tack on to what he said. It's crazy to look at the masks that I made first and then like look at the ones that I do now and just be able to remember the differences, like the things that I did differently. Where I'm like, wow, that is a horrible idea.
But you had to go through those different methods and learn, and I mean, because that's what it is. It's kind of like when you're done, you have a product, but it was kind of like not only with like inspiration of like maybe looking up to see how other people did it or like the style they did, like you're literally like burning through time to learn a new skill and to advance your talent. So it's kind of like that's the way I look at it too, is like you have to do it to get better at it. And it's like if you treat each project as like, this is it, this is going to be my best, it's like, well, it could be the best now, but it's only going to bring greater things later. But you literally just have to like commit to work on it, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there have definitely been projects that I'll hit where I'm like really into it, and then I'll hit one snag and just be like, no, and I'll work on something else for 2 months. Yeah. I used to be that way with Garb, like just trying to like put on a gusset or something and just being like, why? Like, who designed this? Like, exactly. What is this? And I would like, or like the sewing machine wouldn't get jammed and I'm like, but like now it's just trying to convince myself, like, do I need to keep buying silk brocade? Like, I got enough stuff. Like, do I really need to keep doing this?
You do.
I know. Yeah, so, you
do. watching the stuff that you've been creating over the last like 3 months, it's like, well, yeah, you should.
And well, that's what thank you.
It's pretty fucking awesome.
Thank you. And that's what I mean. Wait a minute. The chat box is going through Joel. I don't want that to happen. Well, anyways, let's move that down. Cool. Well, thank you, Joel, for your background. I'm sure it'll intermingle with what Beol has to say next. But Beol, do you want to tell us then why you give a crap about LARP and how you kind of got into it as a young lad?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. My experience like runs parallel to Joel's, but like in a completely different vein. Like, man, where to start? Okay, so after high school, like after those years, I ended up moving away and I did LARP in like another format. So I was doing more story-based campaign LARP stuff and really wasn't doing anything Dagger related. And would kind of come back and hang out with Joel when I was in town, like through our early 20s. And like we'd like hit each other in his front yard and shit, or like have people over and like beat each other up in the street with
Let's be real, we were mostly just beating up your little brothers.
Oh yeah, then there was those years where like Joel would like, there was a point at which Joel would just like come over to my house and like, and still to this day he can show up to my house and like walk into my parents' place in the States and they probably wouldn't even like, it would just be like, oh hey Joel, and just like you just continue like going to the refrigerator, like snap some food, and my dad probably wouldn't even put pants on. Like he's part of the family. Like for me, my family like considers him literally another sibling. So there was those years where, yeah, we were just beating up my siblings, like my younger brothers. And then kind of as things evolved and we got older, like I came back to Dag Gear for a couple of years, but then really my focus has always been on more heavily story focused games. And yeah, I got involved kind of financially with LARP. I found that I wanted to make it a job. So I worked in the video game industry for a few years, more than a few years. I was working in the video game industry for a while, and then kind of made the transition into full-time LARP through a organization that I founded with a business partner at the time known as the Voyage North, and larping.org. And had a ton of fun. It kind of got my feet wet in the industry, and then that kind of evolved into like getting an offer from Burgschneider, this is when Burgschneider first started. And and then I started working at Burgschneider for a number of years until finally making the transition to move to Germany and continue to work full time in this industry, but do it from Germany. So it's weird because like it's parallel to what Joel and I like now are like interested in the same games and the same style of like, you know, costuming is like an important element and we enjoy the same combat stuff. But it's weird that like it was like a convergence followed by a divergence where we were doing like separate things, but like still enjoying the hobby, and then like back together again. And like this last year, Joel came and stayed with us in Germany and hit up our warehouse for how long were you here, Joel? Like
16 days or something, like just over 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Made a ton of stuff. What came into our workshop and like made tons of weapons.
It was overwhelming.
Yeah, I wish we had photos of that. Just like a video or something of just like the ridiculous amount of like work we were able to do.
I just have stupid videos of you running around in different gear.
There was the old plot armor that was used like years ago for War Conquest of Mythodia was there, and we would just put a piece on and just run around. And
dude, that was crazy though. Like walking into a LARP factory and them just being like, "Yeah, like we're gonna get rid of all this. So like, if you want to make something, just go ahead." And I was like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, we had like we were moving our warehouse and our craft workspace from Regensburg to Frankfurt, to Rossbach. And yeah, during that time, Joel came to visit. So we had this huge workshop that's designed, like it's an entire craft workspace designed entirely just to make LARP equipment. So like 100 different blade types, like dozens of different cores available, tons of pommels and handles and cross guards, and just like all this stuff that's been created that you can just kind of make weapons with. And then an entire industrial level spray booth and color matching studio and like everything that you would need, like latex booth, everything.
That makes me mad.
So we just kind of went wild for like, I think we spent like 4 or 5 days in Frankfurt, and then we drove to Regensburg, and then we just stayed there. And like, I remember waking up at like 4 a.m. I think you were still like jet lag or something. I don't know why, but you were awake at 4 a.m. and you're just like, I need to work on this weapon. And like, you just went, because we were staying at the craft space at the warehouse. There's like, we have like apartments that are connected to the building. So we were like, he just goes downstairs in the middle of the night, just like turns on the bandsaw, like turn on the belt sander, just like going wild in the craft studio. And that was super fun. That was an awesome time. And that's awesome. Like, that's kind of the work that we do here. As visual director, like my job is to kind of oversee anything that kind of goes out to the public in one form or another, is to kind of keep an eye on it. So usually it's digital, sometimes it's physical, but that's kind of what I do. And I care about LARP aside from that. Like I am also a LARPer, and I enjoy, going out. Like I'm part of the group with like the thedruzhinacast guys. Like I'm part of that group as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy LARP aside from my work as well, which it hasn't destroyed my love of LARP.
That's good.
Yeah, I am surprised by that sometimes. There are some days where I'm like, fuck LARP. This is not a fun day.
This sucks.
But I always come back around to like being super excited, especially with years like last year where we had like awesome quest opportunity stuff where I could like find my love of LARP again in like a different way.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think you're probably so heavily influenced in the background stuff and the logistics and the money and the planning and the traveling and like when do you find time to recharge and like Mike has always said and even in previous episodes it's like the magic moments, and like when the magic moments happen, it's kind of like they say like when you smell a smell and it reminds you of something from your past. Or you hear a song and you're like, oh, it almost like getting into that again lets you remember that part of you, I think.
Yeah. I think this last year at Bico was kind of the example of this for me when we had Christina's quest that we were doing. It was a round robin like community quest giving thing where like every group did a quest for another group, and we just kind of decided to co-opt ourselves into her story. And I don't know, for some reason I just felt like I wanted to make this super fun for everybody, and I felt kind of responsible to come up with something that was enjoyable, since we were all kind of, I don't know what it was about last year, but we just weren't finding something that we were looking for most days.
And you really did.
And I just felt like I just felt responsible to find something. So I like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm gonna tap my 10 years of Beacon experience to like pick out people that can make this what would have been, I think, a day or two quest, like 4 days of ridiculousness.
Which is funny. Sorry. Yeah. It's funny too. Like I don't even remember. Like I knew it was her quest, but like when we got involved, I was almost like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, are we allowed to tack in on this? Are we allowed? Because it almost felt like in a video game, you like start a quest and it's like, okay, you can only have like one or two other friends. But then like we like joined like, so it's like we got summoned in and joined after the rules were already set. So it's almost like I wonder if we kind of made it like OP on the player side. But like,
I don't know. I mean, if you think about that last engagement where we were having to help her defeat the zombies at the end of that whole quest, we needed every single person for that. There was there was no doubt that they had balanced it. I think the part for me, like that moment of like, I don't know, I keep saying like also, what the hell?
I'll say like.
The moment in which that like aha moment, that moment where the battery recharged, I guess you could say, was when we were down at the ritual circle. Yeah. And a friend of mine, Kira, I asked her if she would come and play this part, and completely unprepared, I just found her on the path and was like, I need you to do this for this thing. I just want you to go down there and role play this. And she's a long-time LARPer and works in the game industry, and like all this stuff that kind of prepared her perfectly for this. So she just ran into it and didn't have any idea and just improvised the whole thing, and it turned out to be so awesome. And I don't know what I was expecting to happen that night, but what ended up happening was like the chicken guy joke started, like the chicken man, and then on top of the chicken man joke there was this whole like orcs coming down the hill and we ended up killing them. There's this whole long story. Maybe one day we'll just tell the story of
I want to have everybody on at some point and we can all like tell our accounts. But that was
what's the chicken man, because that's in the chat too, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, which one of us is the chicken man?
You can go ahead.
So there was this point in the quest where there was this guy who we were talking to, and it was Mike and I and Andy and Tom, and we were just all we were all like fake
we had already been drinking
Russian to this. Oh yeah, we had been drinking heavily. Like, I'd like to point out that none of us were sober in any any state.
I think we all hit that magic moment at once.
We did.
It was this intense, like, we didn't check with one another. We just all looked at each other and we were like, Like, it just hit that, like, here we are. Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. And I think the alcohol level and the awesome level of the moment kind of perfectly synergized into all of us just being like, yeah, this is awesome, and just getting like super jazzed about it. And it was awesome. It was super, super great. But it happened because I think Mike Mike was kind of like the leader, in time, like he's the leader. So he was like, well, what do you have to pay us for us to like help you deal with this problem you have with this wizard, or whatever the storyline was. Christina could tell you, but and we were like, what do you have? And he's like, I have nothing, just this small bag of gold. And we're like, okay, yeah, at home, do you have things? And he's like, yeah, I have a farm. And we're like, all right, we like food. You have food to give us. He's like, no. And we're like, back on that farm, you got any chickens? And he was like, what? We're like, yeah, you got any chickens back on that farm? And he's like, yeah. And we're like, cool. So bring us a chicken. And he's like, I can't bring you chicken. We're like, look, all we want is a chicken. We'll like defeat this evil wizard for you if you bring us a chicken. And then, and like this guy's playing an NPC for a quest. But then we would see this guy later in his normal character, and we couldn't tell that it wasn't. He did
the
do
a good
anymore.
job. He did a really
good
job.
He did an awesome job. He did such a good job of like dealing with our nonsense of like really pestering him to give us something we wanted. And then we would like, we didn't tell that he wasn't the same NPC. So we'd be like, hey, chicken man. And he would just be like, he would try to ignore us.
Yeah, you can see him
not
just
that
like,
character.
He was really, he was a good improv guy. And I want to say awesome. That he had to have trained somewhere. Like he had to have done theater. So we made a joke, like Beol would always be like, chicken man. And like he would turn or like you'd see his like head kind of cock, like he heard it, but he kept walking.
He didn't want to like, and of course then I'd continue like, hey, chicken man. And
like he was like, I went to Juilliard for this. Like, or like, like in his head, he's like, I need respect. Yeah,
how dare you?
I stooped to this level. But yeah, he was great. Yeah, it was awesome. We were like down at the hill, and again, I don't want to go into it because I want to like talk about it some other time. Or we could always talk about it again. But
awesome time.
We had all the Frey hand sabers in the sheaths, and like we were all like garbed out and like standing down there, and like these two orc dudes came down, and like you could see they saw us like, what, like this isn't the group that was supposed to be here. And obviously Beol,
like Andy like turns around and says, because Andy speaks Russian, so like he turns around and says something in Russian, and we had no idea, but we know based on the situation he's basically saying like, we're gonna stab these assholes, and then Mike just goes, duh, and we just start just stabbing the shit out of these poor orcs.
It was awesome.
We had no idea we were involved.
But that's that's in a gist the chicken man story. Yeah. I'm sure that guy has like nightmares of seeing Beol smile and going, chicken man, and him being like,
probably tells that story completely differently.
Probably.
that dude tells the story very different.
These fucking assholes ruined Beol for me because they just following me around and yelling shit about chickens.
Yeah. That was a great time though. And I think for me last year was that recharge I needed. I definitely get frustrated with the LARP community, and some of the things that make LARPers so amazing also makes them kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. And I think anybody who works in any industry kind of gets a little burned out sometimes with dealing with some of those nuances. And having a good LARP experience for me is like a perfect reset. And I'm thankful that I get that often. Like any event, like during Corona, it's the worst because I don't get to have those resets of LARPing with people. I just work with them business wise. I don't get a chance to have that LARP experience that resets some of that frustration. So I'm really looking forward to coming back into the LARP season. Hopefully, the international bastard that is COVID will not be an issue, next year with the vaccines, and then we can all get back together and spend the time we want.
Speaking of,
if you're shooting for some like anonymity or something, I have a guy that I know that makes masks that do a pretty good job of concealing who you are. So I can hook you up. I can connect you two.
Druzhinacast is not endorsed. This
I can put you two together.
Yeah. So, I actually am working on a character that will be my first, like the character that no one. Like it'll be clear that I'm not working when I wear this costume. Yeah. And I will get to go around and play a character that is pure, just like having fun.
We had talked about in our other chats, we talked about like monster kits or stuff like that before. I think someone brought up like the Skaven at Beol, and I thought to myself like That would be so different than anything I've ever made, and it's been a really long time since I've
If
been
you
able to
want to
like
see-
character act.
If you want to see the most insane Skaven, look at the Russian Warhammer LARP.
Oh
And
yeah,
look
it's
at
awesome.
the Skaven kit at the Russian Warhammer LARP. But I think
I follow a couple pages that I'm always like, when I see just anybody.
there's a British guy that I follow, Callum Walker, that I've done a little bit of work with in the past. He's a super cool dude. He just did he's working on a prototype of I want to say it's based on the Vermintide plague priest. So it's like the big hunched over elite Skaven. And
Okay.
it is like, dude, it's insanely cool. It sits on his shoulders and you kind of see through where the neckline is. So it kind of comes out and it's all wired up so that like when he talks, it will like have the
nice.
mouth move and shit. It's like animatronics shit
That's
involved
important.
with it. But it's just insane. Like, it's just going to be a big fucking rat man, but in the coolest way. And he'll be able to fight in it still. And the proportions, like where his shoulders are at, will make sense on the costume.
Yeah.
Because it'll look like it has this big neck like a rat does. It's just crazy.
That's sweet.
The level of detail there.
Yeah,
Dude,
I
I would love
to.
to build. I would love to build like just a fucking monster kit like that, like something bigger. I think would be awesome.
Yeah. I have to say though, when it comes to monster kits, Biko monsters for me are hit or miss.
Yeah.
Like some of them, I look at them and I'm like, that is the coolest costume. That is just awesome. Like the shorter, lesser monster from Ragnarok, the lion,
Yeah.
is super cool. I have a shot of that. It's like a chaos lion thing. It's white. I have this one film shot that I have of it that I love, and it looks
I'm not
so
sure
cool.
if I know what you're talking about.
If you go to Skald on Facebook, I think I dropped a clip of this one, but it's
From
super
a DAG
cool.
event from Ragnarok?
No, it's
No.
Biko. It's Biko.
Oh,
We're talking
okay. I
about like
thought
big
you said
monsters
Ragnarok.
from Bikoline.
I thought you said Rag. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but then there's also like, and it's nothing against the hard work they put into it, but there are other monsters like there's this big crystal monster, this big purple crystal monster that for me just don't really hit the same chord of like, man, I really get like when I see that thing coming toward me, I shit my pants.
Right.
With the big crystal purple monster, I see it and I'm like, it's a guy in a costume.
Without-
It drops me out of immersion.
Without being too harsh, it's almost like sometimes, and I've said this over the years with even seeing some people's kits and just this is through my own filter of just my preference. But you see them and you're like, man, it's like they don't really have that really honest friend that can be like, don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
You know what I
they
mean?
need that one
They
person who
don't
just
have
goes
that
like,
asshole friend that's like, stop.
No.
Like, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's
speaking
my,
as-
you know,
Speaking as that asshole friend all the time.
same. Yeah, and maybe that's why we're all friends. But
Yeah.
I definitely need those asshole friends because I come up with ideas all the time where I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing, and then I have like Lester, who's one of the guys here in the office, or I have my boss Marcus or some other people just go like, yeah, nah, that's a terrible idea.
don't do it.
Don't
Yeah.
do that.
Dude, you're in the best country for that too, because Germans will just be like, "That's fucking stupid."
Oh no.
I'm ashamed of
yeah, das ist nicht so gut. Nicht so geil.
They're like,
Like
what were
they'll
you
just
thinking?
immediately make it very clear, like, yeah, no, that's a terrible idea, and you should feel bad for having it.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. You should feel bad.
Yeah, they're very, very honest. And then when you get upset about it and you're like, man, that was really harsh, they're like, what?
Like, why?
I was being
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Yeah, it's monsters for me are this awesome space where like Joel, I think you do a great job of playing like a monster. Like orc is a monster. Like it's not human. It has
All
a
right,
mask.
you know- all right.
Yeah.
It's not a human character, and you have to wear mask, prosthetics, and all that stuff. So I put it into that category of like you have to do more. You have to go further, and I think your group does an amazing job of that. I think like Drakenfest orcs and Conquest orcs and Epic Empires, like they all have amazing orcs, and then you have the Czech orcs that like they don't. It's not so much they look better; they're just like really brutal. I don't know why Czech orcs look so much more crazy. I think it's the fact they just have like wooden sticks with a tiny bit of foam on the end of them.
I was
and they're
gonna
like,
say,
Yeah,
I'm,
the Czech
I'm
stuff's
actually,
nuts.
I'm talking to a guy right now about making me a steel helmet, and he was sending me pictures of his kit the other day, and it's for that shit.
It's
like
brutalism.
I don't even know how to say any of their, like, it's the One Tribe guys, because they make music that's all written in like the language of Mordor, and it's fucking awesome. If you haven't,
and it goes with their, like, they do camp outs, and then they have like a song they wrote during their camp out, and
the dream. Yeah, it's amazing. But one of those dudes, I'm going to have him make me a helmet, because if there's one thing I don't want to dish out for myself, it's a steel helmet for my orc. So I'm just like, you know what? I will just pay someone else to do that.
And those guys are so good at that. That and camp.
Yeah.
It's, to me, orc camp, like Epic Empires does the best orc camp in the world. There's no doubt about it. And then they light their camp on fire and shit, and they watch it burn down. They're like, yep, sounds about like right. Good year. And you're like, how much money did you just burn? And they're like, what's that?
I've seen some stuff from I think it's Drachenfest with the orcs.
Yeah, Drachenfest has the palisade at the top of the hill, and they have a camp, but Drachenfest camp for orcs is like, it's really good. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome, but there's something about the way that Epic Empires does it that's also really cool, and it's like a step further. And then further than that is the Czech and Polish LARP community that does orc camps where, like, you feel it's a living culture, aside from it being like bad, like the bad guy. Like, you walk into their tents and you're like, people,
there's
like,
a
these
culture.
orcs live here. This is like, they pick these things up and they put it in that bag right there, I can see, and then they walk with it. You know, they go somewhere and someone has to pitch this tent, and it feels real. Whereas the Drachenfest one, for instance, it's like a huge palisade that they clearly bring in on like pallets and stuff, and you can kind of tell that where but this is like nitpicking, this like super nitpicking of a thing that's also super fucking awesome. So I don't know, all of it is amazing. It's just crazy to see the Czech community, who has so much less money that they spend. Like, the Czech crown is worth less than the euro, and they live with this every day, and then they make costumes that are insanely cool with even less resources.
I mean, my understanding of what the Czech orcs that you see, like, my understanding of what they do is essentially like Boo Hurt or something. Like, they just go into the woods and just beat the fuck out of each other with like steel weapons. It just blows my fucking
they have
mind.
a lot of
like their spears, like their LARP safe spears, are basically like big fucking pole, tiny little piece of foam on the end. R.I.P. folks.
It's like I would say it's like it's, well, I'm not dumping. This is the official sponsored not dumping segment, but it's almost like someone took the concept of like SCA, of full contact, but then
they went fantasy.
They had that asshole friend that was like, okay, well, instead of just doing sticks, can we build a durable, somewhat safe thing that looks like a blade on the end, still have sticks, still require a helmet and like a gambeson and safety and all that, but took that aesthetic further to be like, okay, we're not done. Instead of like dropping the culture there and saying, okay, we're just gonna do sticks, and then like
we're gonna do sticks, and we're gonna do like metal grate helmets. This is something also I don't particularly understand, but tons of people do, and I completely like, more power to you. I just don't find the appeal in stick tag with grill faces.
Yeah, it's and I mean, we could all agree on that, and that's why we don't play it.
Why we don't do the
SCA. But and that's the thing. But and especially for like us, and it is the three of us. If our origins were in Dagger here, it's like we came from a game that has ugly weapons.
Oh yeah,
but we also came from a game where it's like you don't really have to wear safety equipment to play. So you can kind of get more.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it's so big, though. It's like you can come into it with
it's ease of access,
right?
Yeah,
so
there's no capable. You can't gatekeep something that someone can show up with nothing and still do.
So it's kind of like the LARP that I feel like we are all focused on now is almost like it is the concept of like a Dagger here. Like, we still want to hit hard. We still want to not have to wear like full armor or whatever player, because people have different like monetary resources, but I want the weapons to look cool, and I don't want it to be tappy tap LARP, which that's okay too, but and I'm also not trying to truck someone with a stick and be like, I am super tough. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. So it's kind of like, you know, I feel like, and maybe we've all felt like this to a degree, but like as a a third party viewer of a lot of people doing different things, I always look at it, I'm like, well, I like this from this, and I like this from this, and this from this, but those three elements don't exist together anywhere that is accessible to me. So that, I feel like that's always been my life quest of like, I guess I just have to make it. Like, I have to do it and find people that want to do it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I don't know if I'm becoming like crotchety and grumpy, but I'm like, I just can't. I don't want to just
I don't think that's the
participate.
case at all. I think that you're completely on the right. You're on the right train of thought, and kind of watching you guys. It was really cool to do a show for SkaldTV and then tune in the same night or the night after to thedruzhinacast first episode, and like have you guys talk about like, man, I had this thought and it's so cool, and they have a word for it. And like this kind of understanding this evolution, and since the LARP in Europe is around a little bit longer, or has at least developed faster in that time. It's cool to also see that people here also want what is effectively the same thing that you guys are talking about. Like, there is an active interest in a little bit, like some people want the super theatric big swings and like very theatrical style fighting where like there's not really this whole like numbers LARPing, like 10, like that doesn't really exist here. And at the same time, also like a quick, like the idea of a wrap shot or a high cross, like coming from the boffer fighting world, these ideas also don't exist. So there's this in between where they're doing big theatrical movements, and they give each other the opportunity to have this not choreographed, but it's more of a conversation between characters through fighting. And the person who wins is the person who kind of won the debate. It's hard to explain until you've done it, but when you do it, then you go like, okay, I get this. It's super fun. But it still lacks like an intensity. And because, you know, we want intensity emotionally in a lot of the role play we do, we want that immersion. But on the other end of there's the physical intensity of LARP that also gives you that same immersion where you get like the adrenaline. Like,
yeah, it's real adrenaline.
There's a study that shows that if an imitated experience is presented in a way that immerses the mind, the physical and chemical response to that simulated experience is indecipherable to the brain than the real experience. So if I immerse you in an idea, even if you know this is a simulated experience, you still get that like fear or like adrenaline kick or sadness. And we know this happens with like characters. Like I have a character and I know this character and he dies, and like all the other people around him go like, oh no, he died, and they feel fear or sadness and grief. And this like this concept that, you know, it exists is bleed. You know, when you leave the game and you still have that sadness, they call this bleed. But there's very few events here, at least that I've experienced, that have the other side of this, which is the physical intensity that gives you that fear element. There's been a couple that I've experienced, and they're few and far between, and they are insanely addicting. Like the dopamine kickoff from those experiences is so intense. And my first Beol was an experience like that. I had a bunch of really heavy role play driven combat experiences that were really intense physically, but then had the role play involved. And it's very rare that you get those at Beol. I feel like they're becoming more rare even. And my first year, I had 3 in 1 year that were huge, that completely shaped my love of Beol. And here in Europe, there is, specifically at like Conquest of Mythodia, there's people who want to have this kind of heavy combat experience. And there is some changes that are actually coming into play in 2021, 22 that employ this idea that like there are some people who want certain types of fighting, and there are some people who want another type, and this more intense type now will have an opportunity to exist simultaneously without there being a problem. And it's really cool, the mechanisms and mechanics that they're putting into place to allow this. And I'm not going to give this away because this is like shit that the game
create. Like
the plot team will totally like explain this stuff, and if you follow anything from Live Adventures, you'll see this. But I've sat in on the meetings for this and listened to them explain it, and it's awesome. And it finally, for me at least, is going to be that experience to have like super intense combat with the immersion, with the role play. So I'm pretty pumped about it.
And I feel like Beol was the first experience for me in my scope because I've never experienced the like European stuff, all the like probably way intense, more storytelling driven gameplay. But like it's almost like I feel like Bikolin's combat intensity was within the vein of Dagger here without the Dagger here weapons hit with more of a punch because there's just literally more mass there, but just with everyone looking a percentage better than Dagger here, I had that moment where I was like, oh, like I told the story of me breaking that girl's glasses in half by accident on the one episode, and like before I threw that shot, I was like, I could almost feel the toxic nerve, but also like adrenaline almost like dripping out of me with the sweat. Like I was almost like my body couldn't handle just the excitement and the nerves and where I almost felt like I didn't physically feel like I was gonna throw up, but it was close. I was like, oh, just because like all of the things happening at once.
I have physically thrown up before a battle at Biko.
Yeah,
it was a combination of being super hungover and nerves.
Oh, okay.
But like I went over to a tree and just like threw up.
It's gotta go.
Bully was like, "You good?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally good now. Let's do this."
But yeah, I would imagine almost like if there is a version of LARP that can exist where it has that intense combat, it has really, really intense, almost like free flowing storytelling, and you got a lot of good players. Like I can almost picture for some players like it would require some aftercare after
this is actually a thing,
because it's like
this is actually very much a thing in Nordic style LARP events. This actually exists. This what they would call bleed and come down as well as post event counseling. So I'm trying to think of the event name. It's something Corp.
Hey, Josh is in the chat.
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a Nordic LARP event which actually had counselors, and Bicolin, Conquest of Mythodia does actually. We keep 2 social workers on staff specifically to help people deal with basically the fact that they can lose themselves in their character or have trauma, that the event is so immersive that it triggers the sometimes PTSD or the intense memory of that trauma. So it comes in all shapes and sizes, but this kind of like needing aftercare, like you would hear that in other spheres. It's absolutely something that's not just after the event, but during the event as well. You'll see that.
Yeah.
And we have a space, like an out of time space that is for that. And we keep professionals, like not just like a guy who can be in there and be like, let me like tap your back. It's going to be
a real nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually like a professionally trained crisis
cookie.
Counselor who can sit and have this discussion and be like, it's going to be cool. Let's talk about this so that you can rejoin the fun and enjoy yourself, or come to the conclusion that it's not needed.
That's such a crazy concept to me. Like the only experience that I have where like I left an event and was feeling something was like Ragnarok, where it was like I'm 20 years old and I leave after fighting every day for a week and I feel like I've been hit by a truck and I can't like walk for
and there's
3
sadness.
days. Like that's it.
Yeah, there's sadness of like getting home and like, oh, the real world sucks. Like I was having this good time with all these people. Yeah,
like the post-event blues are real.
The rag blues or whatever.
Serious real.
Well, yeah, and the whole concept of like having a professional on site and like, because if you think about it, for me, maybe Joel and like maybe even you, Beol, but you've been through stuff. It's almost like we're in pursuit of that, and so much of role playing and LARP is just shoving yourself towards it. Like I can handle it, and like I want more, I want to lose myself. But what do you do if you lose yourself and it's too much? It's
this is a real thing that does happen.
This is a quote that I won't say, but from like an old movie that is now problematic. You don't want to go full medieval. You don't want you don't want to go so deep where you're like, oh, and like that's a concept that we never even knew was possible. Don't go full medieval. That we never knew was possible. So it's like you've never been able to get better at, or you've never tested your limit, or your limit's never been tested. So I feel like that could be a thing, and like I've kind of mentioned that to a few of the guys of the secret LARP about like we're gonna need to look into that because
Secret LARP.
I've heard
there's this really cool way
that.
of looking at this, which is basically the only time a person can experiment, the only time a person can be brave is when they feel safe. So like you're a kitten, and the only time you can like act up and be the lion that you really want to be is when you understand that the environment in which you're in is safe enough and going to protect you emotionally and physically to allow you to do so.
Right.
And this pure, like this agency of both body and agency of story, where I can choose what happens to me and my body, and I can also choose what parts of the story I feel comfortable in being part of. This is a huge part of allowing people to feel safe enough to dive into these roles deep enough to make these choices and to give themselves up to a role. The other side of those is coming out of this and understanding, okay, I'm safe to leave the experience. I have the agency of self that I can make the choice to step away when this gets too intense for me. German LARP has that saying of, oh, mother. And I think that you guys have brought this up before. It's like the oh, mother idea is like, I can say, oh, mother, something. Oh, mother, the heat is too great for me. Okay, that means like the people around you, okay, I don't want to break the immersion, but holy shit, like I might pass out right now because of the heat.
Get this person some help. Yeah.
Like get me some water. That's mother, if only a drop could find my tongue. Like, okay, that's like, I probably would never use something so Shakespearean in nature, like something that sounds like, that way because it's so stupid. Like, oh mother, I'm thirsty as shit. Like that might be more appropriate in most situations. But at least it's a trigger for the people around you to go like, oh, get this man some water. He's fucking thirsty.
Like that.
But this idea that the only way that people can choose to be brave is when they know that they're safe and secure in the experience they're in. And events like Daggy here, Amtgard, Belagarth, Nero, they offer a sense of security that can only be supported by the fact that the organizers say like, well, we told them to play nice, but there isn't a social contract in play for everyone involved to actually understand what this means.
Plus, if it happens to you, you're kind of like on your own.
Absolutely. Whereas a game that is actually designed functionally to have the agency of body and agency of story, where I can choose what happens to me. This now lets people go crazy. They like, man, there's some shit that I've seen at events where like out of context, you'd see that and be like, holy fuck, that's fucked up. Like, I can't believe that person said or did that thing, or holy shit, that dude's not wearing pants. But under the situation, like how we developed this, like how the story is developed to get to the point where this is taking place, and the fact that everyone involved has the choice, understanding, and agency to be able to remove themselves or to continue. Basically, you just allow people to, they get invested, and the result is insanely immersive experiences that you can't have elsewhere. In Denmark, this actually was done through a LARP in which it was a vampire LARP that took place at the UN in the actual UN Council Hall.
Wow.
In which people were playing what would the world be like if vampires were real? And they were sitting there at the UN and also being part of these discussions. And had to have questions like, is it okay for children to be cattle? And like really dive into hard questions about like if
you mean
vampires
in
were
LARP? That
real.
fucked me up.
What's that?
I was like, wait, what? You meant in the LARP, like
in the LARP, in time, the vampires are having these discussions with humans, and like, what was crazy was they also talked about
Europe's nuts.
They also talked about refugees. Seriously. They talked about healthcare, and all the Americans left.
I didn't get to say this earlier, but we were talking about like the Czech LARP spears, and I was like, yeah, it's because they can afford to go to the doctor. Like, what do they have to lose?
Yeah. But what I was saying was like there were politicians who actually attended this LARP, and because this LARP encouraged the people involved to put themselves in somebody else's shoe, this actually ended up shaping European policy. Like politicians then rethought the way that they thought about things like I think the situation that they did in Denmark, one of the LARPs was about being a refugee, and in the end it ended up shifting laws because these politicians then changed the way that they were looking at these topics, and it ended up changing policy in Denmark.
I've never thought about comparing politicians to vampires before, but it seems fitting.
Nice.
I don't know if that was on purposely. I'll have to ask
Nice.
Joanna.
Who just
She was
said
the person who was involved. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's actually a really good point that Joel brought up, though, which is the whole thing about healthcare in LARP, which doesn't get talked about enough, I think.
Well, and that goes back to the concept of like, you want there to be hard fighting, you want the weapons to look cool, but I guess that's what we're kind of waiting for, and we kind of have to a degree. But you want weapons that look good but can't actually like hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
because here that is an issue. Here in other places, that's an issue of like, how far do you have to take it? And that's what I sometimes wonder too about, like, and I keep bringing this up, and I'm really sorry for any SCA viewers, but I keep bringing it up where it's like, for some people, it's probably I need to hit, and I need to get hit by something that gives me that shock, like it's a real weapon.
All the vloggers out there are like, yes.
They need to, right? And
I need to be hit.
We could talk about that in post show, but but I'm sure there's some people that like, you know, the immersion for them, they need that hard hit, and that's fine. And
I think, man, like I'm looking over at my Calamacil, and like that thing hits just fine.
Yeah,
I have no problem getting hit with that anywhere in my body, but like the minute I think one of those would suck to get hit in the head with. Yeah, it's one of Les's, right?
Yep.
Who made that?
This is a custom one-off. This is the only sword that exists like this. Actually, it's a Wyvern custom that was done with a specially modified blade.
Is that for his UF kit?
Yeah, this is for his.
Do they make
Undead
custom,
Knight
or is
Baron.
that only like if you're a bud?
What's that?
Or do they do custom work, or is it only like, well, I know you, and
I mean,
maybe that's not your place.
We have to openly say the owners or the main people at Wyvern are part of our group at Beacon.
No, I know. Yeah.
So we should probably be clear about that. Like, we do get special treatment. There's
okay.
Sorry, it happens. But this is actually a gift.
I feel like it would have been better to say you don't get special treatment. Like now,
like your friend, like because I know you, I'm gonna be able to get access to having you make an orc mask for me differently.
Or like I might
randomly.
sell
like that's
a garment cheaper to a bud, or like
exactly.
You know.
So like this was actually given to Lester as a gift from
cool.
them because they made it, I think, as a prototype, and then they just approached him and said like, hey, would you like to try this and give it a go? And he's been using it for his Baron for some years. I mean, it is one of the most insane. Excuse me, it's one of the most insanely cool LARP weapons I've ever handled, and it looks amazing. It feels amazing. It still is, you know, it's still foam. You know, it's still very much foam. But man, it's an awesome weapon. And of course, then he takes it and goes to the next level by, you know, building the scabbard for it. And
I want to do that too.
You know, he takes it to the next level. I could literally just walk around here and grab stuff that Lester has made because the office is full of it, and just be like, let me talk about some crazy shit, because that's basically this whole place is his crazy costuming.
I would love to be among just a group of people, which I kind of already am, but like I would love to connect with more people and just be in a room and like feel that energy of like, look at all these talented humans, and like the next level of care they put into something. I mean, whether they get paid or not, I mean, because I feel like that's where it starts, is like you're doing it because you like it. You're not necessarily doing it to monetize. Monetizing comes from just like, hey, I'm really talented, and like it'd be cool to do this for a job or whatever the mindset is. But just to feel
I'm gonna grab a weapon real quick.
That's fine.
Explain that one thing, which is one of Lester's custom-made weapons.
Well, while you're gone, I can tell that story about how I met you, so you don't have to be around, so you don't feel embarrassed.
Oh God, yeah.
Unless you don't want me to tell it.
No.
It's good. It's quality.
All right.
I won't embarrass you. All right. Well, real quick though, I do want to say, Joel, like that's why. I mean, you and I may not have had close proximity when we may have learned of each other's existence. Even just like the short duration of time that we've had recently, like getting to know each other and stuff, like I already feel that with you. I can tell, like, man, this dude's serious about what he's doing. Like, in being a leader of your own group for a long time, like, you know what it's like to meet someone and then say, I need to guide these people towards the direction. But then it's a different feeling when you meet someone you've never interacted with, and you're like, wow, like they already did it on their own, and now we just have this in common. There's a different energy there. So that's when even when you came by to pick up that sword, I was like, this dude's cool. Like I've never really been able to like chat with him, but like I could feel that. I was like, man, you know, it's just it's a special thing.
There was definitely a period where I was like, man, Tom hates me, and then it was like. I feel like there was like this drastic shift. Like I started to see you more often at events. You were usually drunk and you would always hug me, and I was like, okay, we're good. Like,
well, just a little background story. I don't want to keep Beol waiting there, but like the group that I was a part of.
It's fine. I'm just gonna like ignore that I ever did this thing that you're gonna tell the story of.
So
like it's cringy as fuck.
But no, like the group that I was in before, and this will go into that story, but we were very like. Just way out on the edge. We didn't really try to interact with a lot of people at DAG. Like we kind of had our own bubble, and we kind of just partied with each other. So that was just generally the vibe that I gave to everybody that didn't make a point to go through that barrier to like talk to us. And
I just I dove into that barrier head first with a like.
Yeah. But that's also something.
Space.
That's also something that we all desire to leave behind, because as we all grow up, it's like I really care about LARP. I want to find more people that really care about LARP, and like trying to stay in our bubble is not conducive to growth and maturity and all that. So, anyways, speaking of that, so in our own bubble, this is the story about how I met Beol for the first time.
Oh boy.
And I'll you know, I won't throw you under the bus, but you didn't really do anything wrong. But so I don't know. We were like walking around in a group, and I don't even remember where it was because I kind of have like spotty memories for obvious reasons of those times. But
I will tell you that I was inebriated.
Oh, we all were. That's
like,
let's just preface this with that.
Inebriated.
We were, because that's what you do at those events. You fight during the day, and then at night you dress up in stuff, hope not to get rained on, and then you just drink lots of drinks and lose yourself in that magic.
I'm pretty sure I also had, that was the year like the really bad storm, and my A-frame had blown into a tree.
We were all trying to forget the weather. Don't worry. We were all trying to cope. So anyways,
I'm trying to come up with as many excuses for why I was this fucked up.
No, you weren't. It was actually really great. Like you instrumentally kind of did all the right stuff that would make me instantly be like, man, what is going on here? So I think I was with Andy or someone, and this guy approaches me. I think we were actually in the camp store, and this guy approaches me and is like, hey, and like, you know when you meet someone and they talk to you like they know you, and then you have this moment of you're like, do I know this person? But
do I know this guy?
The charisma that this guy was giving me, I felt foolish because I'm like, I feel dumb because I don't remember this person, but they obviously...
Did I go to this guy's wedding and
they actually know who I am, and that's rare because I'm not extroverted. I don't like...
I think, let me preface this with, I was a fan...
That's what I was going to say.
Tom's band, and was following his band when he was in it. So like, in my head was like, I totally know this guy. He's awesome. Like,
but no, it was great. It was great. You don't have to feel whatever about it. But so he kept popping up, and he would be like, hey, and I was like, whoa, like, hey, and I'd like talk to him, but I kept thinking like, where do I know this guy? I don't know. And like, I think at one point you introduced yourself and you said, hey, I'm Beol, or it came up. But one of the times we were talking, and like, I was like trying to put it together, and like Beol, like, this person's Beol obviously, but he like smacks me in the butt. He's like, which is like, okay, so let me explain why not that gesture alone, but the confidence and charisma that he was showing towards me, and I totally lined this up wrong, but not the butt slap, but the other things. I was like, man, this person's doing it right. Like, they really want to talk to me. They really are showing interest in me. And so I ended up going back, because at Ragnarok and Dagger here, it's not really taboo to take your phone out, even though people would be like, oh, you're ruining my medieval experience. Like, you can do it, and there's no such thing as decorum, really. So I pull up my phone and I look him up, and I see his picture, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, so so what it was is a long time ago, like Beol said, I was in a band, and we were like Viking themed, or like a Viking metal band or whatever in America.
And not just that, we both were in bands at the same time, touring the same locations, but never crossed paths.
I just remember you adding me, or I don't know if I think you added me, because I
definitely added you. 100% I added you.
But I remember seeing your picture when you added me, and like not really going in depth to like look at where you were from, but I figured with like the kit and the profile pictures, and like you have a look to you too. I was like, I thought this was just some European like LARPer guy. I didn't know that you lived in America.
This some asshole named Beol.
I thought that was your real name. Like I didn't know anything about it. And also because at the time we were so immersed in like Dagger Here's the best with like that stuff that I'm like,
and I came into it with the exact opposite of like, fuck tag.
Well, yeah, but see, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We were like stuck. But so I thought there's nobody that actually like LARPs around here, and like LARP was like a dirty word in Dagger.
It was.
People
it's
would call us LARP, and like, we're not LARP.
Is very true.
Because it was like the only thing you'd ever see was the lightning bolt video, and like we didn't want to be seen as nerds. Like we were like, oh, this is physical. Dude. Anyway, so that's the whole psychology of Dagger. But like, at least the way we were at that time. But
it's pretty accurate.
So he kept coming around,
yeah.
And I'm like, cool, this dude's cool. So like, being a part of kind of like a very like secluded, introverted group, I'm like, which maybe you could believe it now because I'm on this podcast, but I was like, I think I'm the most like extroverted one amongst people that usually want to stay. And if anybody's watching right now, you can disagree with me, but that's how I felt. And so I was the guy who's like, dude, this guy keeps coming around. He's cool. Like, he should come and hang with us. Like, he should, whatever. And everyone's like, I don't know. I don't really know that guy, because that's kind of how we were. But I don't remember the first year how that really ended up with your interaction. But I feel like the following year, you like popped up again. I'm like, dude, it's you. And like that's when we started talking. Like we went to the Thunderdome together, and like, you wrestled that guy. I don't even know who that was.
Yeah, I don't remember how. I don't remember what shifted. I think I was working at Burgschneider the first time we met, but then the second time I remember I was running. I think I was actually running a booth that year.
Oh,
and
was it 2 years or 3 years? I don't even remember.
It was over a number of years where I just like.
Because I missed 2017. I was living in Romania, and then 2018 you were there, right?
I was there. I've been to multiple rags, but
that one year it really
I've been to
popped
3
off,
or 4
man.
Ragnaroks, and this was one of them.
You
there
were
was
like
multiple
coming
years
around.
of basically like showing up to Arcona camp.
Yeah.
And just like shooting the shit and hanging for a little while and like grabbing butts, I guess. And
that's the only time that being in a band has ever helped me. I've never had like ladies come up to me like, you're in that band, even like after a show. I've never gotten any
just this
networking.
Guy with ladylike hair who's like, you're in that band.
I've never had other bands come up to me like, dude, your band's cool, we should play shows. Like I've never had any kind of, and I never had an ego about it either. So that's why
just
I'm like, why is this guy talking to me?
Just
like
one
I'm
dude to be
one
like,
man slapping.
I don't
ass.
see myself as like on this front, man. But it was just
man,
very
he's
like
got
you
such
didn't.
strong hands.
If I remember, it wasn't an ass slap. I probably got a full handful.
Like
if he's remembering it, it was like
it was a loose cup. Anyways, but that being someone that likes being around extroverted people and confident people, that was enough that I was like, this dude's cool. Like there's effort here to talk, which isn't anything that we really had or did. Not dumping on my own friends, but that's just our dynamic. We're very secluded. Like we like what we're doing.
Yeah, totally. I think the thing for me that was like super appealing about the group was like you all had good kit. You all were like all very interested in self-improvement and like making like not just in game, like in relation to your LARP interests, but also out of game. And there was these multiple aspects where I was like, this group is really fucking cool. I want to take these guys to Beak Lane with me.
Yeah. And that's how that started.
I want to go to Biko with these boys, and then I had a connection. From years of going to Beekland, I had some connections on places that we could potentially put all of us, because we made a decision pretty quickly, which was fuck tents. We don't want to deal with this.
Well, we had speaking of like lasting scars, like we had a couple bad years at Ragnarok where like the rain just exploded our entire camp. And I mean, it sounds like a lot of people in chat, which, sorry chat, I haven't been ignoring you. We can, like, if you have questions, we can dive into that. We've just been
casually looking over there like, oh yeah, this is relevant.
Which I do have
the
some
iPad
questions
up
too.
with it, so
I do have some questions too, because I think we have some Swordcraft people that I kind of want to ask questions. But and if you guys consent to it, we can go a little bit over time. It's up to
I'm
you.
cool. I mean, it's almost midnight here. Like, it'll be midnight here in a half hour. I'm cool to run over a little bit. That's
Okay.
fine.
You could just pass out on one of those benches and wake up and go to work in the morning.
Yeah, me and Joel can just chat and.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could totally do that, but I live directly in a flat above the office, so.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know this, Joel. You've been in the flat.
Yeah, it's like a 2-minute walk. He'll be fine. He can go over. It's fine.
I don't need to be in the office super early. I'll be fine.
But I remember you trying to sell the concept of Beakoline to us, and it was already on Mike and I's radar, him more so. And I had just moved out to California at the time, so I was really the only LARP, quote unquote LARP things that I was doing is flying out every year to Chicago, driving with Mike to Toledo, and transferring all of our stuff to Andy's truck, and then driving to Ragnarok from there. So that was, which, I'm glad that's over, because now I'm back in Ohio. But that was the only interaction. But it hit this thing where and Joel, I don't know if you remember, but there was a lot of political turmoil about things that were happening with the rag people, and that was a couple of years ago, so it'd be like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I only order rag, like I don't have to keep doing dagger here. Like there's enough things that frustrated me about it, so like let's do this thing after Mike had pushed it. And I remember like it being a no-go option for me, as far as like that's never gonna happen. Like it's in Quebec, like that's such a big deal. Like I had never traveled that far, and then couple that with, Beol telling us stories about it, and it was, everything just kind of hit at the right time.
My progression is actually kind of similar to that, because it was like I played DAG up until technically I think the end of last year was when I finally like quit. But after last Ragnarok, I was like, you know what, like the weather's always shitty, like I'm stressed out like preparing for this for like a month, and then I get there and it's disappointing because the weather sucks. Like nothing ever happens the way we plan for it to. And like I left Rag and I was like, all right, that was my last one. But like going into that, I was like, no, Ragnarok is the event that I'll be at every year. And now I'm of the mindset where it's like Olympics will be the event that I go to every year, even though I don't play DAG. It just depends who I'm camping with. But like, yeah, now I'm like completely disinterested in DAG, and I just want to do Biko. And that's because when I went to Germany in December, fucking Beol's like, no, man, like here's this whole kit. Like, let's, dress the same and go to Biko, and you can be one of the Biko boys. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like, let's do it. So now it's like, okay, cool. I'm like making plans to go to like European events and shit, and like working on kits to go to Biko and like the secret game here. Like, yeah, like getting rid of Dagger.
I couldn't have you leave Germany without a full fucking costume, because
dude, it was ridiculous. I had the helmet in my fucking checked bag, and like I go through the scanner thing and it pops up on the screen, and I'm like, that's a helmet for sports. It's just like,
he's got chainmail, and you're like, it's sports, and I'm like, I swear.
All right.
Don't. I put it there on purpose.
This is my sports ball helmet. It has chainmail.
That's what I said.
What
I was
sports
like,
ball do you play?
there's a helmet in here for like sports. And she was like,
think about it, in those situations, you want to explain what it is, but to our perception, the generic normie is going to be like, what are you talking about? And it sounds more like a lie than it does the truth. So it's kind of like,
it's so hard to go through. Yeah, it's so hard to go through. Like for me, I travel international with LARP equipment regularly, or I did before Corona, and it was crazy because I have camera equipment and then I have LARP equipment. So like specifically, the great example is going to Beekling, where you have all this camera equipment and they want you to remove everything with a battery, which for me is everything in my camera gear.
Oh
So I
my
have to
gosh.
remove all of that. And then they're like, cool, scan the next bag. And they're like, what looks like a dildo with a cord down the center of it is like
Dude, I was gonna
passing
say,
through.
just tell them it's a sex thing. They're not gonna want
Like,
details.
I guarantee, actually, I want to try that because I feel like if you say like, no, that's definitely a dildo, then somebody would go like, we're not asking questions. But if you tell them like it's a LARP
They'll
dagger,
opt
like
out.
dagger, he used the D word, like, and they like immediately, you could
That's a
use the
weapon.
word dick, and they'd have been like, also a D word, we don't care. But if you say dagger, even with like the foam before it, or like prop or whatever, they just immediately like, you
Yeah.
almost get tackled.
Well, when we crossed the Canadian border, and they're like, "Do you have any weapons?" We all kind of looked at each other like, "Well, we have fake ones," trying to be like
Yeah.
transparent. And they're like, "What?" And then I'm thinking, okay, this person is probably from Canada because they're on the Canadian side. And it was my understanding that like Becoline is kind of like a known thing, kind of.
It
like
depends on where you cross.
been
It really
promoted.
depends on where you cross.
Yeah, so we're like, oh, we're going to Becoline, like thinking like, cool, like we're speaking this guy's language, like he knows exactly what we're talking
Yeah.
about. He's like, what? We're like, it's in
what are you
Quebec.
nerds doing?
It's
Yeah.
in Quebec, and
Yeah,
but
that's one situation where claiming that it's a sex thing probably won't work.
we're going to Quebec. To like,
We're
we
going
really
to Canada for some sex
we
stuff,
like the
guys.
Do you have any
accents.
weapons in the car? No, it's a sex thing. Like,
No.
it's just not gonna fly.
I'm super embarrassed, please.
I mean, but if you cross the border and you tell them like the way that I was explained to it by a border control guy after being pulled out of my car and having my entire vehicle checked for everything was he's like, the legal definition of a weapon is that it is a weapon. He's like, because it is shaped and looks like a weapon, it is not a weapon. It's made of foam. So like, don't ever tell anyone. Like it's like a play weapon. It's like
It's
a
a
toy.
toy.
Like no, like what you have is a piece of foam.
Yeah.
What did I fly back with? I flew back from Germany with something that I was like, okay, this might show up on a scan and be misconstrued as a weapon. Do you remember what that
I
was?
think you had a LARP dagger that you had made in the studio.
No, you know what?
Or-
It wasn't coming back from Germany. It was when I came back from Denmark, and Martin, my buddy Martin, gave me like a dagger, and I flew back with it in my bag. I also flew back with like 6 lamb furs, but I didn't say anything
He's
about those
smuggling.
either. So if there's any
Get
TSAs
him.
watching,
He's a poacher.
yeah, for
You were
legal
poaching
reasons,
them
that's
lambs,
a joke.
yo. Yeah, Aurelius Armory. I can't wait to travel for LARP. Haha, it's gonna be so weird for bag check with Orc Kit. Yeah, real talk, Theo. It is.
By the way, you guys are, I didn't say it, but you guys are my,
try the thing in the drawer.
technically you're my co-host. You're my guest co-host, so you guys got to do.
Oh, of
host
course.
duties
Yeah,
too. So I
I've got the
appreciate
iPad with the chat.
Yeah, I
up,
appreciate it.
Doing my job.
Yeah, I keep seeing chat. Maybe we should turn our eyes to that because we're kind of like, we're all so sweet.
Dr.
ha, ha, ha.
Classy.
And like, I don't want to
Dr.
forget.
Classy, sports equipment always. This Dr. Classy, I won't give away who his secret identity is, but I do know Dr. Classy personally.
Same.
As do. I don't think Joel knows.
He may have
Dr.
revealed
Classy.
it on an episode.
I did accidentally on one of my shows. We haven't on this show. So
Just
maybe we
consent,
should.
Dr. Classy, and then we can say it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Dr. Classy though. We're sure.
He says all.
Yeah, it's
good.
I
Dr.
thought it
Classy.
was. I've been reading it as Dark Lassie.
De Classy. De
Dark
Classy.
Lassie.
How are you, De Classy?
Dr. Classy.
Yeah, that's kind of like us with what was yours, Joel? Mrs. Neeker.
It's a capital M and a capital S. Nobody would read it like that.
Mrs. Neeker.
This
Yes,
is bullshit.
By the way, this
Anyways.
was Joel's Halo gamer tag when
It's
we
my
were
Instagram
children.
tag.
The fact that he's still upset. We were playing
It's
Gears
not
of
clever.
War.
I hate you.
We're like
Gentlemen,
15 years old, and he's still upset we're making this joke.
Ryan fucking Reineck. Mrs. Neeker. Like, fuck you, Ryan. No, I love that guy.
Oh, those are good. I once watched you tear down a set of blinds off a window because you couldn't turn them to make the light. Like you wanted to turn these blinds so the light wasn't coming in because you said there was glare, and then you couldn't get them to turn, so you just tore the whole thing down. Oh, I'm crying. That shit was so funny. Oh.
Yeah, we were fucking wild kids, man.
You were a wild kid. R.I.P. Isaac's fucking basement.
I was banned from going to Isaac's house for like a year because one of our other friends lied to his mom and said that it was me that had shot a bunch of airsoft BBs all over the basement.
Oh God.
I was like, I lived over there until that happened, and then like she wouldn't let me in the house for a year because Cody lied
Jesus.
to her.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
So, Dr. Classy, he's traveled quite a bit with his LARP equipment. Yeah, he goes with the classic, it's sports equipment thing, and it always works really well for him. And he's refrained from traveling with me across the border since every time I do, I seem to get pulled out of my car.
Yeah, you've had a rough time.
I've been strip searched. I've had my car locked up. What's that?
Your luggage exploded when you came in on that
Dude.
one flight.
I can't. Oh man, I totally forgot about that. I literally, yeah, wow. I completely forgot that happened. That was in Philadelphia.
Was that the first year? Was that 2018?
That was.
Yeah.
I was flying from. So I had spent a couple of days I was in Sweden. Then I came back and was at Conquest, and then I went from Conquest to Denmark. Flew from Denmark into Michigan. And I was no. I was flying directly into Montreal that year because I was changing flights in Pittsburgh. And you have you're waiting for your bag to come up on the little roller thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this bag comes up. There's like underwear hanging out of the side of this suitcase. It's just ripped to shreds, and there's just shit everywhere. And I just went sucks to be that guy. And then literally no more than 3 seconds later, I was like, fuck me. That's my goddamn suitcase.
Yeah, that sucks.
And I was so upset because literally my underwear, my shoes, everything is just strewn literally all another piece
awful.
of candy.
You were upset.
All the way around this rolling.
I felt bad.
Dude, and I made a big fuss with the flight. I think it was Delta.
Well, and Matt lost his entire luggage that year.
I did.
Hey,
that was the first year.
I'm gonna interrupt for just a second.
Matt lost his.
So the chat that's popping up on the middle of the screen, somebody just said, "Man, y'all don't read many comments, huh?" I'm assuming that's a question, but
we've been meaning to get to them.
I don't see that in the stream chat that I'm looking at. So
it's
does that
probably
mean that,
from Facebook or somewhere else.
Oh, there's multiple chats.
Oh,
yeah, we're streaming
dope.
on
Okay.
Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
That's cool.
Wild.
Okay. So I shouldn't be reading necessarily just the one on the right. I should be looking at the
You
one
can
on the
read whatever
middle,
you
too.
want, bud.
Huh.
Well,
But I do want to get to did we have questions for the Swordcraft player? Were we gonna? I'm kind of scrambled now.
Swordcraft's super sweet, by the way. I
want to have a
Swordcraft
person on here.
The main event for Swordcraft Melbourne. I traveled to Quest 2 years ago, and spent 25 days in Australia before and after that event, and that is a super cool event. I did a film for
Australia.
It's super cool. Big shout out to the Blades of the North. Really, really cool group of fantasy Viking-esque players. Really cool crew of really, really nice people. So that and Dan from I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I want to get all kinds of people on here if it's possible. I'd like to hear perspectives, and instead of just having to read the chat and be like, "What do you think?" I'd love to actually have someone on here and kind of give us a
if you want to get some Swordcraft players, let me know. I will hook you up with a bunch of them because they're always down. It'll be a weird time difference thing, but make it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, we shifted for this one, so
yeah,
we can do it for that for sure. Oh, do you want me to? We are getting to the point where we are almost 10 minutes over time. Do you want me to play that trailer?
Yeah, we can. I guess this would be cool, trigger to discuss more things.
Yes. So
and I'm down to talk for another 30 minutes.
I mean, how's chat feeling? You guys enjoying this? Do you want it to keep going? Or are you are these guys still talking?
How many viewers do we have? How do I even?
Right now it says we have 12 total, maybe. I think.
What up, 12 people?
It's gone down a little bit, but you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, I
So,
think
yeah.
they're at like 17.
Yeah,
I had
we
a
were
couple
doing.
people text me about it.
We were pumping earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll transition over there. They're not gonna be able to see us because it's gonna literally just be a screen. But we can talk over it if it's not too loud. I can adjust the volume.
I miss
this
you
is-
too, Boley.
This is Chronicles of Mythodia 2019. I'm just gonna play it.
Yeah, go for it. Is the audio working?
It's coming through for me.
No? Okay.
That tent that I bought looks like it's the biggest tent. Show.
Are we muted on stream? Or are we talking?
We're talking about the top.
Oh,
Yeah, that's some crazy. Looking back on this, it's been basically 2 years since I filmed this,
yeah.
and kind of a wild ride between now and then. It's kind of crazy to look back on it. So that is Chronicles of Mythodia, which is I think that is the third or fourth largest LARP event in the world. Has around 4,000 people that attend that event. And yeah, it's a hell of a good time. It's a fantastic event. I really enjoy it. It is the biggest combat focused event, I believe, aside from Drachenfest. And it is super enjoyable. Still a lot of plot at that event for it being mainly combat focused, but it is fantastic. I really, really enjoy that event. And yeah, but it was something that when we were talking about like what do we do, my job is filming those events and creating the branding, marketing, visual direction stuff for those events. So looking at it like in comparison to the American styles of LARP, yeah, sometimes it's hard for European players who see that as like the standard. It's hard for them to sometimes have a discussion on a apples to apples comparison with American LARPers on a lot of things. Like even something as simple as like there is no such thing as an area where you can have a synthetic tent. Like when you show up to one of these events, there is no out of immersion tent.
Non-decorum tents, yeah.
Yeah, like there is no non-decorum at Conquest or Chronicles or JDS. It's just not a thing.
We had a question on the Facebook because now I'm looking at the chat on there, asking what reference the trailer was to Cross Gamers. I would just say like, hey, here's what LARP could look like in the United States if more people cared.
You're saying Cross Gamers. What is the definition?
What
of
was the
cross-gamer?
relevance? Of playing that?
I believe.
Yeah. Well, for the person that asked the question, we've been chatting. I mean, I don't know if this is the first time on the cast for you, but generally we vaguely, which it's generally and vaguely, I guess, but we talk about like LARP, like LARP specific LARP, like storytelling LARP, immersive, like it isn't always latex, but like latex weapon LARP, like weapons that actually look real.
It's like it's immersive story-driven LARP versus combat-focused LARP, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of this cast is kind of a portal to one, talk about what we like, what we hope to see, but also it's a portal for people that don't necessarily, like, maybe someone never heard of Chronicles of Mythodia, or even
I would imagine most American LARPers have never heard of that.
And also it's to start, hopefully, I mean, we're not exactly booming with being well known yet, but yeah, like Swaz said, battle games versus LARP. It's basically to say, if let's say like Amtgard, Nero, any America-based LARP, if that's all that you've had exposure to, that's your standard. So you grew up in that. You're like, this is what it is to me. This is how it is. It kind of opens the window to show like, well, these other things exist. And for me personally, and I think Josh and Mike, I speak for them too, I'm all about starting a new standard, not to replace what's already there, but to be like, look, just because we're American LARPers, we don't have to just keep going with this formula. There's other things, and if you have the desire to experience something else, that's what we're talking about here. So it's to basically be like, be courageous to set the new standard, or to just participate in that mindset of like, hey, I want something a little different. It's not a direct dump on Boffer LARP, but it's just an alternative mindset.
Yeah,
I hope I said that right.
I think the hardest thing for American LARPers that I've experienced, for them to kind of understand, is you can't say this about American LARPers. I guess you can just say this about battle gamers who haven't done story-driven LARP, because there is a lot of story-driven LARP that's happening in the United States, whether it be like small Solar or Nero, or like these events do exist that have story-focused concepts, but they're done so in a way that is very American. So it's a lot of numbers. It's effectively like D&D, but in person. And the German style of LARP is much more in the direction of like almost no rules. Like the rules are more social contracts created between people. Like as a whole, the organization, the people attending all have this social contract to kind of play within this world in a responsible and respective way. And we expect people to be adults about this. Mm-hmm. So there isn't a thing of like, you cheated, you didn't take my hit. Like that's just not right. Never has that discussion been had.
Yeah. It's not about like, you are here alone and you're here to either dominate, screw over, or defeat every other player in the terms of these rules, and if they lose, big deal, haha, that's on them. That is kind of, and that's kind of like how sports are. It's like a win or lose. Yeah. I'm the winner, you're the loser. It was all fair and square, or maybe I cheated a little, and like beyond that, we don't really have much interaction, and I don't really care what you feel about it.
Yeah,
it's what we're talking about is. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's something that we've talked about a lot in our planning stuff for Secret LARP, is just because like we don't want everybody to come in thinking they're gonna be the hero. Like you need people to exist in a community. Like it can't just be like, oh, I'm here to be the best fighter here. Like it needs to be like a change of like mindset.
I think the person who comes into an event saying, I want to be the best fighter here, that if you want to play that character, then what you need to start with isn't fighting. What you need to start with is an entourage of people who all support this thing of your character is an amazing fighter. Then you need to start with, what is the costume, what is the mannerisms, what is the story of a player or of a character in which they're a great fighter. So you need to have those things in place. And then you need to be competent enough to then, when you go in to have a fight, be able to then support the story elements of what you're doing in some kind of physical format. And if the people around you want to show they're the better fighter, then it will be done in a way that is actually conducive to the story structure evolving, and not just
hear me out,
beating the piss out of each other.
just have your entourage rig all the fights for you, so you look like you're the best fighter. That's the most LARP shit you can do.
Yeah, if that's the kind of LARP it is.
All the people that you have to fight.
Yeah. But it's definitely somebody mentioned D&D. It is like D&D because it's like
kinda.
Well, it depends how you play D&D.
It depends on how you play.
There are players in D&D that are like, whatever, I'm just gonna min-max the system and destroy everything, and it's about loot and dungeons, and it can be that for you. But and I know when we talk about this, a lot of times it's hard to gauge like, okay, what's the source material? Like, what are you actually talking about? But I guess if I could sell anything, it would be the mindset of everyone. When you enter into, like, let's say the perfect LARP in my brain, or even LARPs that exists, you're the director. Like, it's almost like everyone shares a slice in every single role. You're a director, you're an actor, you're a storyteller, you're a costumer, you're all these things, and it's all collectively working together to essentially make the LARP like a movie that everyone would want to watch.
Yeah.
It isn't just about
you are
and
a
like,
supporting character and the main character and the director of your experience and the supporting director of other people's experience. Like, and I think this is a topic you guys talked about, this play to lift, where it's like this concept, and I won't dive too far into it because it's a whole giant rabbit hole, but the idea of play to lift, if done in LARP, fixes 90% of the things that you're going to have problems with. Because like winning it doesn't exist. There is no win. There's only the struggle. The struggle is winning. If you're able to convey struggle in a way that makes people interested in being part of it, you've won.
Yeah. Winning to me in that is the immersion, the successful storytelling, the power of how often those magic moments can happen. You know what I mean? I mean, when I first started Dagger here, I was a little like, whoa, because like I didn't really know anything, but all those things happened immediately because of what I knew prior to going in, which was not much, and I was really wowed. But after being around for a while and seeing the community and everything, it's kind of like those things went away and they weren't really enough, and my imagination really wasn't filling in the gap anymore. So I think what my understanding of like a lot of the European LARPs and just like the ideal LARP as we hold it up high in general is to be like everyone is using their creative capabilities, whether it's acting and everything, to fully submerge everyone else in a moment that they don't really have to pretend that they're in. If I didn't say that in a really crazy way.
Well, if you're creating the immersive experience, the thing of like I have to make believe, like he says I see a dragon. Okay, I guess I see a dragon. Like no. Like that's no. I think that's another thing about American LARP, unfortunately, that also is a thing where people like they have to say like, cool, you see an army of undead coming over the hill, and the players have to like now role play as if they see this army of undead.
Imagination is the death of immersion. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's actually a super
honestly, that's why I always get so frustrated being on like various boards and stuff, because people will be like and I don't want to drag Belagard specifically, but they have so many creature races that exist that just cannot be played by a human. Right. So like I was a part of this board.
I'm a gelatinous blob.
There would be people that would be like, oh, I'm a dragon person. And I'm like, that's cool. You're not though. You're a human that's wearing like a silk robe and you're claiming to be a dragon person. Like I'm not, like, why is it up to me to like you know, like you should be able to portray that. Imagination's cool and all, and I have that, but now we're adults and we're capable of doing things that should actually portray that, you know? Like as a kid, you do it out of necessity. Like obviously I'm not gonna be able to build myself a fucking full steel set of armor for an orc as a 8-year-old kid. Granted, like good for you if you can, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
And for those 8-year-old kids out there,
for those 8-year-olds out there saying, I can do this.
Well, no, but for those 8-year-old kids,
good for you, dude. Like, I would love to teach an 8-year-old how to make steel armor, but
I just mean like at that stage, and as we were all at that stage, you have to use your imagination, and your imagination's really like running wild with all these ideas, and you're excited. But I guess it's kind of like, without sounding all like hoity-toity, like look at us. Now we want to be in a group of people that want to really work hard to create this awesome thing that if a passerby did see it or someone recorded it, it would look cool to someone that has no imagination.
Yeah, I think this is something that, man, there's like a really slippery slope argument that I could like get into it that I won't. But
yeah, maybe we should be careful. I don't want. This is becoming like dump fest. But go ahead.
It's not. I'm not like. I don't think this is so much dump fest. It's like most of the world has figured this out except for the American LARP community, and it would be cool. It would be cool if the American LARP community could like. I guess it's like the imperial system.
Well, it is. There's an arrogance. There's been an arrogance for a long time in America that like we're just sweet because we're Americans, and I think that's kind of poisoned the well and has pulled the rug of effort and ambition out from underneath of us because we're like, it's the core of entitlement too of globally, and it's kind of just like no, your grandparents old and your dad's old, and now you have to do something great to maintain that reputation, period, and that transfers into the attitude of the general blanket of American LARPers, although there's a lot of great American LARPers, but
there are.
Of like,
I think
you gotta work for it.
What I would say is like that's really the thing, is that right now there are a ton of people in the American LARP community who could attend a European high standards LARP event, and with very like, there are some that can go like with the costume they have and they're ready to go, like boom, ready to go. They're not going to be top tier costumed kind of people where people at those events go like, cool, he's able to play a lord, or he's able to play a really important character. Because you would attend all the American kits that I've seen, you'd show up and they'd be like, cool, you are average. You're like, the good kits in America I see in European events, it's like, cool, you're average. And that's awesome. That's super great. If those players showed up to a European event and said like, I'm important, 99.99% of American LARPers would be like, basically they wouldn't get the response they're looking for. There's a small amount of people out there who have these costumes that are at that level. Like Tom, you're one of those people where like if you show up to an event and you said like, I'm a whatever, and you said like, I'm a fancy boy with cash in my pockets, then somebody at that event's gonna go like, yeah, he looks and acts like a fancy boy with cash in his pockets.
You can't see it, but I just dabbed. All right, continue.
Yeah. Awesome. Then perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Baby dab.
As I said. But yeah. But the thing is that the thing that it takes to go from where American LARPers are at to that point where they're like on par with the rest of the LARP community internationally is so small. The actual amount of effort it takes and money it takes is so unbelievably small. People take, and yeah, it's attitude is the other part, but the thing people get wrong is people always underestimate how much you get done in the short term, and they always overestimate what you can get done in the short term, and they underestimate what you can get done in the long term. So if you spend 2 hours every week, like dedicated 2 hours just working on improving something on your costume,
it's easy.
Then by the end of a year, you're going to have a costume that is so significantly better than you had. I don't care what costume it is. It could be an insanely good costume that is 2 hours a week will make it better. I am the worst at this, by the way. Like if you talk to Lester or like if you talk to Joel about this, they'll like shit on me because I don't take the time to work on my costumes as often as I need to be. And thankfully that's not a real big issue with the, Corona and everything right now. But in a normal year, that means I'm not progressing my costume, and that means I'm not taking like my character as seriously as I probably should be. I don't think it's entitled, but or it's expected that everyone does this like 2 hours a week concept. But I think if you want to be better, like work on improving that part of your hobby 2 hours.
I could talk at length about this. After leading Division 10 for a long time. It's really, I will always give people shit. And I'm sort of going to paraphrase, and I'm reading from the chat here. They're talking about the difference between constructive criticism and just criticism. The difference for me, at least with like bringing in new people or encouraging people to upgrade their kit, is that I will always be patient with the people that are trying. It's the people that
Totally.
come to me and just refuse to try or do anything on their own that I'm typically a lot less caring, I guess. I just struggle to be
You're less empathetic toward people who
yeah,
aren't
yeah,
willing
yeah.
to put forth
Words
the
is
effort.
hard. I'm sort
Let me
of
say
blanking on
this.
the words that I want to
Let me
use.
say this real quick.
Yeah.
If I may. Well, and I to kind of like zoom out on this discussion and kind of give the focus some clarity. Like, I don't even see it as us looking at people that we don't think are showing enough effort, and we're trying to either shame them or push them or whatever to reach the level that we think they should. I see it more like the focus of this podcast, and even like amongst the community of people that really get into doing that type of stuff. I think to me it's more about going off and doing it and setting the standard, and then if people want to join and be a part of it, I would rather them be inspired to join and be like, holy crap, than to turn towards people that have low ambition and be like, you're doing something wrong. And
Totally. I think this is so key, and Joel actually is a great example of this. Like, it's not actually the act of telling people to get better costumes. It's inspiring people to want to do it. So it only takes a single person at a local like group. I've seen this take place where a local park for Daggy here will have one dude who shows up after Ragnarok where he bought a new tunic and a new pair of pants, and he went and like covered his sneakers, and now he's got like a costume. He's not just like a guy with a bedsheet tunic. And everybody at that park is going to like, sweet, I want that too. And then they go and they get that. And now the whole group has elevated because they were inspired by the one dude who improved. And I've seen this happen even like Lester. He's our, one of our leads here at the company. He started working on a Landsknecht kit, like an Imperial kit. And the dude elevated the level of what you can do like so hard.
It's amazing.
It's like so I'm not just gonna like go grab his costume. It's right there, but I'm not just gonna like throw this on stream because that's super rude. But it's hard to explain how insanely awesome a costume is. I've watched the dude build it, and it's like none of this is rocket science. But then when everybody else in that community sees a costume like this, they all go like, "Well, guess I gotta start modifying my outfit because like I'm not gonna get left behind by this guy."
Yeah.
And like,
so I guess what I was
like positive peer pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's constructive competition.
What I was sort of building to a second ago, and I'll use a recent example. When I left Dagger here and started like an orc tribe without the constraints of Dagger here's armor rules and all that, like whatever, doing what the fuck I want. I was like actively recruiting. So I think I have 6 or 7 guys that if I don't know if any of them are actually in here right now, but they can attest to this. I'm like constantly in our Discord, like posting new shit and like hounding them like, hey, like, what are you working on kind of thing. But I had a couple friends that were like, yeah, you know, I really wanted to get into LARPing for a while. Like, I think I'd like to join up with your new orc tribe. Like, I know, like, you know, you're like good for this. Like, what can I do kind of thing. And I straight up tell people, I'm like, if you are not genuinely invested in this, don't tell me that you are, because I will expect things from you. Like I'm going to be on you about it. I'm going to be doing whatever I can to facilitate you, like, you know, building this kit and building this character. And I had a buddy of mine, like he hung out with me 2 or 3 times about it, or like to work on stuff. So we did. I mean, we built like the base layers for his kit. He wanted to do like an alchemist, and then like about a month in, he just dropped off the face of the earth. And I tried a couple times to get a hold of him, and he just started ignoring me and not responding. So I removed him from the group and was just like, all right, guess I have an extra orc kit. Like it's when I say that I'm less empathetic towards people that are unwilling to try, it's that kind of thing. Like if you're here and you're putting in the time and you're invested and you're like, you know, reaching out, asking the questions that need to be asked, like you genuinely want to improve your shit, I'm going to do whatever I can to help you, even if you're not good at it. All that I care about is that you try and that you clearly give a shit. Whereas like somebody who's like, yeah, I'm really invested in this, and then just like fucks off and doesn't actually do anything, and then like a year later doesn't have a kit that they've put together themselves, or like, you know, or they're scrambling before an event because like, oh, well, you know, I had all this time. Like It's just that kind of shit. Like if
Yeah.
you're just going to tell me that you're interested, that's great. I don't give a fuck. Like I want you to actually physically be showing me these things that you're doing, whether it's like doodling. I don't care if your drawings are horrible. Like if you draw
Yeah.
something, I guarantee I can look at it and figure out what it is that you're trying to do. And like that's always what I've encouraged any new people to do. Like one of the best examples that I have of that is Wid, who I don't think either of you know. But he was one of my new guys a couple of years ago. Like came in just like right off the bat, like very obviously like wanted to build a kit, wanted to like be like all around like a really like solid fighter, like have a solid kit, all that shit. And yeah, I mean, like he came out and like brought a pair of like shoes that he tried to make one time, and it was just like every couple months, like he would just make some like drastic improvement. And it was like, holy shit, like this dude like is genuinely invested. And I would take like 100 of him over like a couple of people being like, yeah, you know, I'm really invested. I have all this money to put towards it, and it's like, where's the result?
Yeah.
Like, what am I getting? Like you're not showing me any of this. You're just talking. Like what does that do? Nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, a lot of it comes down to it's a lot of like communication, and even like it's just social issues. Like the person sees that you're excited, they may think they could get into it. There's a lot of like people pleasing going on where they're trying to sell to you like, look, I'm really interested. But then maybe they find out they don't really like it. That's an awkward conversation to have after they put so much time and encouragement towards you. So then they just disappear. But that's just a failure of like communication and like not being able to say like, hey, I'm sorry, I really like got into this, but like it's just not for me. Or like people just ghost because they don't know how to deal with they don't know how to talk
That's
to
a
people.
whole other thing.
Yeah, so but I know what you're saying, and like there was a huge surge in a lot of groups at Dagger here to like recruit a lot of people really fast to have like a really big group. So there was a lot of like babysitting of like, okay, I got to get all these people up to speed. So like I feel like what we're going for now is the opposite of that, where it's like and this is just a quick analogy because I think we've all been in bands. It's like one visionary in the band tries to recruit a lot of musicians to see their vision done, and the band kind of doesn't really do that good. But then you get bands where it's almost like every single member in their own right is a visionary, and the band's awesome because they're all really excited. I mean, they probably argue or there's competition, but it really succeeds because you got a lot of people putting in the same amount of time to make it happen. And that's what I want. I want it to naturally happen to where, like, if you're drawn to it and really want to do it, because the real LARP of storytelling, it requires a lot. It requires you to fake that you're somebody else. You have to have the stamina to keep it up. You got to have a good kit. You got to do all these things. So it's kind of like you're either going to make it or you're not. And I guess if we're not out there actively trying to recruit, not to say that that's what you were doing because I don't really know, but I know that was a thing, you know, where we come from. There might be less frustration because it's like I'm already doing what I love with people that I know love it, and if someone really wants to try, cool, but if they don't, ultimately I still got all this positive great stuff over here to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, we had that added benefit too because we all had the kits. Like we all had the look when we were on. So when we were recruiting, it didn't matter. People knew that was the standard that was expected. So it's like it was easier to bring people in like that, which I believe you mentioned earlier. Like when that standard is set already, if you're using that to recruit with, like people are automatically going to come in thinking like, okay, this is the level I need to be at. And then, I mean, that might even make trying easier. And I guess I should specify that, like, I don't care if you're spending money on your kit. Like, that's fine. I make and sell stuff casually. So, like, yeah, like, definitely support, like, local artisans, too. I'm just saying there's something important that comes with, like, that desire to improve and, like, to learn things.
It's general effort, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Across the board.
Whether that's buying things or modifying things, whatever it is. Or, honestly, just asking questions is a huge thing for me. Like,
yeah. I mean, we're creative people, and we just freak out when we get to see other people like us, basically. I mean, that's with anybody. So we are at the 2 hour and almost 10-minute mark. Are there any questions from chat? I feel like we should make a healthy choice and not let this episode go too long. Does anybody in chat, you want to spout out some quick questions? Real quick. If not, if you guys have any closing comments or anything you want to say that maybe we forgot real quick.
I mean, I can angry rant about anything.
I was gonna say before it turns into that. Yeah, I want to like. Beol, how are you over there?
We could just have a show called like the ranting LARPer, and it's just all of us just
I'm
like
angry.
losing our
That's just
shit.
what it's called.
Dude, honestly,
I could probably do the same. Working in LARP had definitely. I have things that I could probably rant about, but probably wouldn't be good for my job. So
Yeah, let's not. I don't want to tread. Dude, what tavern is that? I want to go there. See, it looks like you're holding nothing.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing how you're playing an
Kalimba.
invisible instrument.
But I mean, join us next time to explore these topics further.
Yeah.
If you like the show, please share, like, subscribe, follow, tell your buds. We're trying to keep the show as candid and as personable and relaxed as possible. If you know anybody that you'd like to be on the show, or if you're in the chat section and you want to be on the show, message.
Gotta get bully in here.
Yeah, message. All you got to do is just show a little bit of interest, like we said earlier, just a little bit of effort to be like, you know what? I really like the show, or I don't really like you guys that much, but I'd like to be on the show. Anything like that. We're trying to fill that void. No one's LARPing right now, or no one with sense is LARPing right now. So just trying to keep the community going and even build a new community with people that I've never talked to.
Somebody was asking in Facebook. Oh, it's Mook. What do you guys think the first step is adjusting the expectation of LARP from Euro to American LARP?
Creating a game that has unwavering standards, but also provide education and show examples to people of what it could be, but sticking to it, and not in the spirit of, oh, I want to make a lot of money, recruit a lot of people, so who cares who comes here? It's more about the integrity of the game than it is about becoming popular and all those cheap things that Americans pop off to.
I think that question of how do we adjust our expectations, how does the American LARP community adjust its expectations, is actually one that is almost impossible to answer, specifically because the expectation American LARPers have are exactly accurate to the LARP experiences they have.
Yes.
If the question is how do American LARPers begin to change the appearance and how do they begin to change the appearance and the I don't want to use the word quality,
identity?
But how do they change the experience that they have from their LARP? We could spend a whole show on that alone. And it starts with lead by example and support LARP organizations that support LARP organizations that provide safe, high immersion experiences with realistic expectations for their players.
And if you don't have one near you and you don't want to get sick and get your friends sick, follow the DruzhinAcast, go and follow SkaldTV, stay informed, listen to people
education.
Educate yourself. I mean, this is the easiest time right now, potentially, in the time frame of our technology and the amount of time you have on your hands to just go put the time in, click the video, watch, follow, support, all those things. And the effort has to start with you.
I feel like I'm the only person who during Corona works more. This sucks.
Yeah, but you're in Germany too, so.
Well, it's also because for us at least, the only time we can do all the housekeeping, all the crazy stuff that needs to get done in order to run a LARP event of this size or to run these companies. The only time we ever get to do the housekeeping and all of the stuff that we never have time to is now. So it's this mad dash to get all of the stuff done we've wanted to for 2 years, because we know as soon as events can start up again, the whole focus will go back to running the largest events in Europe or in the world.
You guys got a lot on your plate, so I totally get that. But
that's me with kit building. I'm like, fuck yeah,
even more busy now.
Time to do some shit. Yeah, and then I started working full time, and I'm like, I don't want to do anything else.
But yeah, I'll have all these guys' their info and stuff in the description. Follow us, have conversations with us. But I am going to put on my moderator hat and say that's it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Guys, I loved having you on. Thanks for coming by and saving
Absolutely.
every viewer from just not sitting and watching me for an episode.
I think it would have been a cool episode. I would have interacted with you in chat.
Guys, this is my room. So yeah, guys, come back next week. I think Josh and Mike might be back.
If not, we'll be here.
Yeah. Part 2.
We're the backup crew.
So have a great night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.